Okay, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Emil Truszkowski from pozdro.skyrelde.com. Greetings from North Korea blog. And I would like to greet you all with my special guest, Felix Abt, the capitalist from North Korea. He'll be joining us today to talk about North Korea, business, tourism, and about his book, A Capitalist from North Korea. So say hello to Felix Abt. Thank you very much, Felix, for joining me today. I appreciate that you accepted my invitation. I'm very, very honored. And let's start right away. Could you introduce yourself to our audience, and could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, Emil, and thanks for having me. And I'm happy to share my experience with all of you. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I already took an interest in foreign countries and cultures when I was a boy. And unsurprisingly, during much of my adult life as a businessman, I was involved in dealing with many foreign countries, and I have been living in a number of different countries in Europe, Africa, and Asia. Being a businessman in my native Switzerland didn't appear very challenging and exciting to me. But doing business with one or two more dimensions to it in the most unusual of places was a truly thrilling experience. When there was talk about upcoming reforms in North Korea, I could not refuse the job offer by the ABB Group, a global leader in power and automation technologies, who sent me as their country director to Pyongyang to build up their business. I like to work for ABB as it used to have a tradition of great pioneerdom. It was one of the very first companies to move to China and Vietnam when these countries opened up. And the executive I was then reporting to at ABB's executive committee was a Swedish engineer who had set up ABB's first factory in China. Subsequently, this group built up more than 24 manufacturing joint ventures there.
Sorry, Felix, to interrupt. Can you sit a little bit farther from the screen? Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing that people are joining right now. So can you tell us a little bit more? What have you been doing in North Korea for 7 years?
Well, my 7 years in North Korea became really one of the busiest periods of my life. I sold a wide variety of products, at the beginning only for ABB, later also for many other companies I represented. And that was worth millions of dollars. And I also sourced products there. I negotiated over a dozen joint venture contracts, of which a few materialized, and advised others in a variety of ways. For example, advised the Russian railways on the setup of their first joint venture.
So you're really an expert in North Korean matters. I know you've been very, very active, and you're very active on social media as well. You're trying to reach a lot of people using social media like Facebook and Twitter. And this is the first time you're doing a Google Hangout. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I'm perhaps a little bit old-fashioned, so I didn't know that something like a Google Hangout existed before you contacted me.
So can you tell me, were there any particular highlights of your stay in North Korea? What are you proud of what you've done there?
Well, highlights were, for example, the recognition by the World Health Organization of the pharmaceutical company I was running as the first in North Korea to comply with global industry quality standards, and the first North Korean company ever to win contracts in competitive bidding against foreign competitors, or the co-foundation of the first software company that produced award-winning medical software, or the country's first e-commerce, which I set up together with North Korean painters. I also co-founded the first business school.
Oh yeah, we'll be talking about the business school in a minute, because that's an amazing topic.
All right, yes, because the business school was interesting as it instilled new thinking and entrepreneurship, and I was also co-founding the first Chamber of Commerce.
Okay, and lately you become an author as well, right? You published your first book about North Korea last year. Could you tell us a little bit more about this book? When did you first think about writing a book on North Korea?
Well, I'm not a good writer actually, and I never thought of writing a book. Only when I was in North Korea and heard all these uh, stories that did not always reflect reality, and when I got more and more irritated by all the nonsense that was published, and I thought I should write a book to give a more balanced view.
How long did it take for you to write the book?
Well, it took me more than a year. I was, of course, very busy with many other things, so I usually worked at the weekends.
Okay. When talking about North Korea, it's a very, very delicate subject, right? And I want to ask you if someone in North Korea was unhappy with you writing about North Korea and about your experiences in that country.
I didn't get that quick. Can you repeat that?
I want to ask you if there was anyone unhappy about you writing about North Korea in, like, I mean, the North Korean authorities, for example. Did they knew that you're writing a book?
Oh yes. In North Korea itself, I know that some senior cadres knew about the book. They may not have been so happy as it was. It's not a book. It's not a propaganda book. I'm not representing. I'm not a spokesman of North Korea. On the other hand, they know also that it was not just another book that was trashing North Korea. That was almost exclusively focusing on negative aspects. I try to be quite fair and report what I saw and experienced myself, and elements that I gathered. In an objective way. So I don't think. Yeah.
Can you sit a little bit further from the screen? Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. So, can you still go to North Korea? Are there any repercussions for the book?
Yeah, sure. I have been in North Korea after the book was published, so I wasn't arrested, if you mean that.
When was the last time you went?
The last time was last year.
Could you tell us how people react when they hear your story? Because like,
how people react? Well, that's very there are people who think that I'm how shall I say, that I'm a propagandist of North Korea. That's a criticism I hear. Probably because they are used to hearing only negative things coming out of North Korea, and if you try to be more, if you come up with a more balanced view, then of course it's a challenge to many people. Hello? Oh, can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me? Ah. Hello?
Sorry, I'm back. I'm back.
Hello.
Seems that I had internet problems.
Yes, we have. I'm in Vietnam here, and we have from time to time internet problems with the connection.
Okay. Okay, sorry about that. So we're talking about people, how people react to your story about North Korea.
Yeah, as I said, there's of course a lot of people who feel challenged by my narrative, which is not exclusively focusing on the most horrific aspects of the country, but more of what I would say the more day-to-day life and business in North Korea.
I've noticed that you have some critics who criticizes you for working with North Koreans, right? What would you tell to people who think that you're like corroborating with the North Korean regime?
Well, I mean, I would say that, for example, thanks to the business school, which I co-founded, many jobs and new promising businesses were created, and that kept more families afloat and reduced poverty. I would also answer that while the elite can have imported brand pharmaceuticals, I, as the CEO of the most advanced domestic pharmaceutical enterprise, allowed to share our know-how with our local competitors to help them produce better medicine, thereby saving real lives. And finally, the elites don't work in hazardous mines. I sold equipment and safety gear to mines, which must have saved many miners' lives. So did my defectors save, or did my detractors save ordinary North Korean lives?
Fair point. So let's talk about business in North Korea. You've mentioned quite a lot of investments you've done, not only working for the ABP, but also you set up a very, very successful pharmacy, right? The Pyongsu. Could you tell us a little bit about that? And what was the biggest challenge in setting up business in North Korea?
Well, this pharmaceutical company, perhaps the biggest challenge was to change certain patents to instill a quality-mindedness. I wanted the company to become to have very high quality standards in every respect, not only in production, but also in service. And so our, for example, our shop assistants had to be not only very competent and also ethical in the way they sold pharmaceuticals, but also friendly and smiling with our customers, and that was perhaps relatively new in Pyongyang.
I can imagine that. I come from Poland, which was used to be a communist country, so I can understand, very sad and not very polite shopkeepers. I know what you mean. So can you tell us what's the biggest difference between negotiating with North Koreans and with working with people from other Asian countries? What's the biggest difference?
Actually, there are not so many big differences. There are more things that are in common with Chinese and other East Asians. For example, in business, it's important to build trust before you really can do business, and it's very similarly done in a rather informal way during dinners or in a karaoke room, and sometimes even on a golf course. That you get to know your potential business partners better, and they get to know you better, so that you can find out and they can find out whether the two sides fit or not.
Our next question would be about Poland, because I heard that there is the oldest joint venture company in North Korea is a Polish North Korean company. Can you tell us a little bit more about that shipping company called Chopol? Do you know the story?
The then Polish CEO of that joint venture company was a good friend of mine.
You seem to know everyone in Pyongyang.
Well, we play tennis together at Russian embassy and sometimes, and he was a co-founder also of the European Business Association, and of course we talked about his business. His business was doing relatively well. Of course, they also had their ups and downs. But I wouldn't want to talk too much about that business because
of course
that's of course more confidential. But of course, what I could say is that since that company was registered as a DPRK company and as a shipping company was sailing under DPRK flag. They also got some. Felt the pressure that the U.S. put on all DPRK businesses, even though they were always. Of course, that business was always legitimate, and they did not transport any illegitimate goods. But still, they also faced the consequences of the pressure from the outside.
I can imagine that foreign investments in North Korea face many challenges and many problems. We'll talk about sanctions in a minute. Have you met any other Polish businessmen in North Korea? What kind of investment they were planning to do?
Yeah, I met a few other business people. By the way, on the day when we founded the European Business Association, which was the first foreign chamber of commerce in Pyongyang, a large Polish business delegation headed by a vice minister attended the ceremony, and we had another interesting member in the European Business Association who set up a meat processing business. They made Polish sausages according to Polish recipes, and started quite well. Soon you could eat their sausages and other meat from them in hotels and in restaurants, and buy them in shops. But there was perhaps the business model had a little flaw, because these guys thought they shouldn't use any chemicals to conserve the meat, conserve the sausages. And as there has been a problem with refrigeration, there's a lack of refrigeration in shops, and perhaps people are not so used to respect expiry dates. Fresh products without preservatives became a liability, or could become a health hazard.
I understand that.
And another, and so I recommend my friends to change the recipe to survive, but they stick to that. They stuck to that, and there was another problem they faced. They brought all their equipment before they agreed, before they had finalized the joint venture contract, and you should, before you start a business, you should really agree on every major, but also on every minor point, so that later on you don't have any frictions or big disagreements and disputes. And so they brought the equipment before they finalized their contractual negotiations.
Well, it's unfortunate that they didn't succeed in their investment. I hope there'll be some more opportunities in the future. So let's talk about the sanctions. Like, the sanctions that are put on North Korea, and because of those sanctions, a lot of foreign investments have proved to be unsuccessful in North Korea. So how did sanctions impact your business, for example, the Pyongsu, and what happened to the company?
Well, sanctions have an effect on most businesses, because first of all, you could feel it that many suppliers did not want to deal with you anymore if you're a North Korean company. So the few remaining suppliers are aware of that, and they exaggerate their prices, which means your input costs increase and you become less competitive. Secondly, you have also problems with making payments and receiving payments, since the West made sure that all normal bank payment transfers were made impossible. North Korean banks were cut off from the international banking system. So there's a lot of companies who say, no, under these circumstances, we don't want to do business with a company in North Korea, because we don't bring our money in a suitcase to Pyongyang, or we don't want that they bring us their money in a suitcase.
So that's how you made payments? You brought the suitcase with dollars?
No, but this is basically you know, if you're cut off banks and you cannot make payments by bank anymore, then you have to find other ways, unconventional ways, like bringing money in a suitcase. So there's no other choice if there's no banks available anymore. And then of course you have other things like you know, there's so many products are actually banned. President Obama recently said North Korea is the most banned country in the world. For example, you have lots of products, components that you need in many industries, which are banned because these components happen to be also used for military purposes. They're called dual-use products. So if you don't have these products, then maybe your products, if you're a food processing company or a pharmaceutical company, your products are not become unsafe because you can, for example, not test whether there are germs, bacteria, viruses, and so on in your products or in your production environment, because you cannot use the chemicals that are needed to do these checks.
So what happened to your company, the Pyongsu?
Well, the company had, of course, we tried to get enough of the products inside within the country to do the necessary testing. But if these products are not available anymore someday, then of course the quality and the safety of the products could not be guaranteed anymore.
So could you tell us how does those sanctions influence ordinary people's lives in North Korea?
Well, you know, there's so many products that cannot, for example, cannot be imported anymore. From already, pianos are not allowed. French cheese, foreign wines, Swiss watches and chocolates are banned. Lipsticks from Canada or whatever. There's so many things that are banned. And as I say, if due to all these sanctions, traders cannot buy and sell products, there will not be a robust domestic market. The entrepreneurial middle class cannot grow. They will suffer most. And ordinary people will not get products in sufficient quantity and quality as they would normally deserve.
So what would be the better way to deal with North Korea, putting those sanctions and trying to isolate them even more?
Well, sanctions. The advocates, those who advocate sanctions, claim that they target the elite, but it's the elite does certainly not suffer from sanctions. It's usually the weak, the ordinary North Koreans and the middle class. Certainly not the elite. Sanctions have also not stopped the nuclear program, so it's hurting the wrong people anyway, and sanctions should be abandoned.
Yeah, I can understand your point of view. Let's go to the next topic. I think we've already discussed the sanctions. When doing business in North Korea, do foreign companies have to give bribes? Did you ever come across that?
Well, I would say North Korea is one of that may surprise many people, is one of the cleanest Asian countries. I don't want to make public comparisons, as I don't want to annoy other countries. But as investors, and I've been involved in various investment projects, we did not bribe to get all the necessary licenses and permits. We did not have to pay anything. If you have to hire staff for if you set up, for example, a representative office, and you need staff from an organization, from a ministry, from a trade company, or from whomever, then you pay your sponsor organization or the organization that puts staff at your disposal. You pay 3% commission on sales made. But this is not does not go to individuals. It goes to the organization, and you get an invoice for that. So it's not bribe. You cannot call that the bribe. It's a legitimate fee for a legitimate service. But I have not. I did not. I was perhaps I was in a lucky position, but I did not need to bribe anybody in North Korea.
That's good to hear, and this is actually quite surprising for many people. And one other thing that a lot of people don't know is that there's actually a lot of capitalism in North Korea. Have you heard about trading of foreign currency or the black market in North Korea?
Well, already when I was living there, there was a lively market, or black market, if you like, for foreign currency, and that has grown over the years. So it's nothing special.
So what do Koreans do with those, like dollars or euros?
Well, if you, of course, the one is not a convertible currency. You need hard currency to buy imported stuff. I mean, all the traders who import stuff need hard currency to pay the suppliers, and the shops and other clients need hard currency to pay the wholesalers and importers for these goods.
That's very interesting. Let's go to the next subject. I want to talk about the Pyongyang Business School. You are the co-founder of the Pyongyang Business School. But before we start on that, I want to tell our audience that there will be a possibility to ask questions at the end of this interview. So please, on the left side of the screen, you have the Q&A application. Just press that button, and if you have any questions, just post a question, and we'll try to answer it at the end of the interview. But first, let's talk about the business school. So Felix, could you tell us a little bit about how did you come up with the idea of setting up a business school?
Well, when I arrived in Pyongyang in 2002, I saw a country emerging from a huge crisis in the 90s, with famine, and the socialist public distribution system had just collapsed to a large extent. So markets were then springing up and filling the gaps. People started trading, and of course, hundred thousands, if not millions, of people, workers, lost their jobs in state enterprises. So the managers of these enterprises, they were used to work in a centrally planned economy. They got their targets, the orders from the State Planning Commission, and now the situation has dramatically changed. Markets emerged, while the old system did not exist in the same way anymore. And but these managers, they did not have the expertise to adapt to a more market-oriented environment. They had to learn how to research markets, how to set up marketing and services and an efficient supply chain and how to lead with figures. So they needed to have some accounting and controlling mechanisms in place. They even had to learn how to make a business strategy or a business plan. All these things they haven't learned before. So so that's what we wanted to teach to them, so that they could have an immediate benefit and help their enterprises to survive and to create new jobs in a new environment.
Were the North Korean authorities suspicious of your actions? Like, Pyongyang Business School, isn't this guy trying to make a revolution over here?
Well, of course, there was some skepticism at the beginning, or the whole project was thoroughly scrutinized, of course, and we had to answer many questions to prove that this was not meant to overthrow the system. Our argument was that any enterprise, whether it is in an economy, in a capitalist economy or in a socialist economy, needs these skills. So finally, they were convinced that it would help the economy to develop and to become less dependent on food aid. I mean, they also recognized that they were hugely dependent on foreign aid, and they wanted to decrease that aid by giving a kick to their own economy.
So how did the North Koreans react to this foreign knowledge and foreign management style? It's like totally different from their way of doing things, right?
Yes, of course. Well, we had very experienced, very seasoned lecturers, quite often with an impressive international career, and they were able to illustrate the theories they lectured with very practical examples from their rich careers. So the North Korean executives were impressed and were ready to accept most of what they learned.
That sounds fascinating. Have you heard about, of course you've heard, the Pyongyang University of Science and Technology? It has been quite a big subject lately because of one book that was written about the school and one teacher teaching there. What is your opinion on that school, and can it have positive influence on for change in North Korea? Just please say something about the school to our audience, because they might not know about it.
The Pyongyang University of Science and Technology is a great project. It helps familiarize future leaders with the world and help them to integrate North Korea into the world.
Let me explain quickly what is PUST. It's a North Korean university in Pyongyang, which was sponsored by foreign investors, and all the teachers are foreigners, right?
The Pyongyang University of Science and Technology. Well, yeah. It's I think it's individuals. Many are Christians who donated money, and there are many lecturers who do it on not against payment. It's based on donations. The whole thing. And as I said before, it's a fantastic project which deserves all our support. As I said as it helps the future North Korean leaders become familiar with the world and later integrate North Korea into the world.
I also think it's a fantastic project. I've seen some documentaries about it, and it's really, really amazing. And let's hope the school is not closed for any reasons. And let's go to the next subject, because we're almost finishing our interview. I'm very interested in tourism to North Korea. Actually, my dream is to become a guide to North Korea and to take, for example, Japanese or foreigners living in Japan to North Korea for a trip. And can you tell me a little bit about the travel industry in North Korea? Where did you like to travel for holiday?
Well, I went to different places, of course, to get to know the country.
Where's your favorite place then?
Well, actually the favorite place was Wonsan, because my staff they love to go there, and so we had our corporate holidays during summer in at the beach of Wonsan, which is a fantastic place to relax.
Yeah, I've been there. It's really cool. I love it. So could you tell me how tourism can influence North Korea for like positive change?
Well, tourism is a labor-intensive industry, so it can bring food to the table of numerous families, and more tourists realize that or see how more and more North Koreans sell homemade food, sweets, handicraft, and postcards, and what have you, to tourists. So it gives income to more people, and also there is more interaction with between Koreans and foreigners. Even though you can of course argue that interaction is always limited and is controlled. But
yeah, I wanted to ask you if you had like real interactions with North Koreans. Many people think, as you said, that all those interactions are fake. Like it's impossible to have a real conversation.
Well, I did have a lot of interactions with all kinds of North Koreans for professional reasons, basically. You know, I mean, I dealt with, for example, doctors and pharmacists on an almost daily basis, and these were not members of the elite. They often could not even afford to buy a bicycle. I was dealing with engineers and technicians and workers at power stations, at cement factories, at food processing factories, and so on. And the talk was not always business. You joked with them. You had other conversations, and so also farmers in remote provinces, and so on. So I was quite happy with the number and quality of contacts that I was perhaps privileged to have. And I got quite some insight. Many people told me their personal stories, and don't think they were all made up. They told me their stories when they had trouble with their spouse, or their kids did not failed at school, or also when they were very happy that their kid made it to an elite school, or married their girlfriend or whatever. So yeah, I had quite a lot of interactions with average North Koreans.
So basically, normal stuff you would talk to people, right? Nothing special.
Yeah, nothing special. I mean, I knew also family members sometimes of my staff, you know, or even kids, or knew who was their uncle or what the grandfather was doing or where he was working. So and these things were not hidden from me because it was based on some trust. They knew that I would not betray them or abuse the information or whatever. So uh, if you have to trust, then and if you go there, you go to North Korea not to pass judgment, but just to observe and trying to understand, then a lot of doors can open for you.
So what would you say to people who think that you should not go to North Korea as a tourist because you're supporting the regime by doing that? What's your opinion on that?
Well, well, you know, I would say you support at least the North Korea, the regime as much as you support the postcard sellers and all these guys who sell their handicrafts and the flowers and the sweets that they make at home. I think there's very little that from tourism that goes to the top. So most of it is spread at much lower levels. So that's probably the worst argument to argue against engagement if you use tourism as an argument.
So you think tourism can be positive, can lead to positive changes in North Korea and for North Korean people?
You see, I was in North Korea when during the so-called sunshine period, when there were South Korean tourists coming regularly to North Korea. And I observed North Koreans observe South Koreans, and that was very interesting. They saw South Koreans, they were well dressed, well fed, had all modern cameras, and were their mannerism were not exactly what I have been told. So I think tourism also can trigger certain changes in the perception towards the outside world.
I couldn't agree more. It definitely changed my perception of North Korea as well. Just being there for a few days, but it was an amazing experience. A lot of people are interested in the daily life of North Korea, so let's talk about that for a few minutes at the end of this interview. What do North Koreans do for fun?
Well, I think I have a chapter in my book that I recommend to read my book to find out more about that. Of course, they do a lot of things. I mean, sometimes even surprising things. The not spectacular things is when old men play cards or chess or whatever. But
I saw pictures of hula.
most spectacular is, for example, when women like to take dance courses to learn rumba, samba, cha-cha-cha, and other Latin dances, for example. Or I saw particularly young North Koreans who showed me videos of their parties at home. And they invite their friends home for birthday parties and other parties and sing and have a lot of fun at home. So it's many things are probably not much different from the rest of the world.
On your website, I saw pictures of North Korean girls playing hula hoop. I found it very, very amusing. Okay. Well, talking about women could you tell us a little bit about the role of women in North Korea? Is their position stronger than in other Asian countries?
Well, of course, women traditionally in Asia were traders, whereas men were more politicians and officials, made a career at the courts and so on. In North Korea until the 90s, men were the breadwinners, as they all had a job offered by the state. But when this big crisis came, then many men lost their jobs, lost their regular income, and unlike other socialist countries, North Korean women could stay at home as housewives, and they, when their husbands had no more job, many of them started trading or started making things at home and then sold it somewhere in a market or elsewhere. And so actually women in North Korea became the major breadwinners, and women, I could also see that women became more self-confident over the years because of that, and as a side effect, even divorces increased. So yeah, women play a very important role in the informal economy, in the formal economy as well, in state enterprises and mixed enterprises. Women play an important role. You have a lot of women who are, for example, in charge of the finance and controlling in many companies. But also, as I said, in the informal economy, in private businesses, it's driven by women.
That is very, very interesting hearing about the North Korean women creating the capitalist market in North Korea. One of the last questions I want to ask you, and one of my readers actually asked that before. Is there a football league in North Korea? What are the most popular sports in North Korea?
Well, yes, there is a football league consisting of about a dozen teams. They play in Pyongyang and in other major cities. And of course, the most popular sports are soccer and also taekwondo. Soccer became famous. We just talked about women because women soccer teams had many, how shall I say, won several times in Asian and other international competitions. So that helped to make soccer a very popular sport in North Korea.
Have you ever seen a soccer game?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did more than once.
Okay. And I just want to ask you, can you swim in the Taedong River? I really like swimming, and I was wondering if it would be possible to make a triathlon in North Korea. I would love to see that. There is a Pyongyang Marathon, International Pyongyang Marathon in April. So now it's time for a triathlon as well, I think.
No, I haven't seen anybody swimming, and I'm not even sure if it's allowed. But for a triathlon, I think North Korea is ideal with its rugged landscapes and rivers. It would be easy to find a good area to carry out a triathlon. And if you do that, I would find it a great thing. I'm not as good in sports, so I couldn't participate myself, but maybe I would come as and watch you do it.
Oh, come on, don't give up. Everyone can do it.
Yeah, but you see, I'm a little bit older than you, so.
Well, okay. At least if you come and cheer for me, that would be great.
I will, yes.
Okay. So I think we'll be finishing now. Or maybe do you have time for any other questions? Is it okay?
No,
Or
sure.
okay, so maybe for like last question I would like to ask you is how does money work in a socialist society? Because after the public distribution system collapsed, now money plays what kind of role in life in North Korea?
Well, North Korea was once the most demonetized country in the world, and was proud of that. Also, a country with little or no taxes, and but the 90s, when the Soviet Union and other socialist countries collapsed, and North Korea lost its markets and its supporters, and then also suffered from natural calamities, from big famine. That all basically overthrew this this economic model without or with little monetary transactions and little taxes. So now more and more services and goods have to be paid. It's that these times are now over. That everything was free of charge. It was until the mid 90s. The state took care of everything. The state provided housing, food, clothing, medical care, and gave only a little salary, which was more like a pocket money, with which people could buy a box of cigarette or a cinema ticket. But basically, the state provided everything, and that has completely changed in the 2000s, from the 2000s.
So North Korea is like slowly progressing in towards like kind of like capitalist, kind of like China way. Do you think? Could you say that North Korea is now like China 30 years ago?
Yes, North Korea. There are some parallels between China, when China opened up decades ago, or when Vietnam opened up decades ago. You can see that for example, farmers are now entitled to produce and sell more products for profit for themselves than before. Also, enterprises, managers have much more freedom also to use profits, for example, pay more incentives to workers when the company is more profitable. And there are more and more people running private businesses. So there is a trend in a similar direction as in China and in Vietnam. Many of what I observed decades ago in China and in Vietnam is that in those countries as well, people started their own business under the umbrella of a state entity and shared profits with that state entity. And I've seen the same happen in North Korea. So, and then after a while, enterprises become more on their own, and then you will have a full-fledged market economy, or rather mixed economy, as in China and in Vietnam. But that will well, of course, that's a longer process. That doesn't happen overnight, as it didn't in China and in Vietnam. It also took years, and also it was there were also lots of hiccups along the way towards more modern mixed economies that China and Vietnam are today.
Definitely, it's gonna take quite a lot of time, I think. But yeah, a lot of people don't even know that there are some changes going on in North Korea. You don't hear about that in the media. You're not gonna read about that in the newspaper. So I think that today we learned quite a lot from you, Felix. Thank you very much. I think we've learned a lot of new things about North Korea. I try with my blog to educate people about North Korea and about this country, culture and tourism and business as well. I hope that my blogging about North Korea is not gonna get me into any trouble. I don't want to get banned from North Korea, of course, as I want to go there again someday. So I would like to thank you again for joining us today. I think this was a very, very interesting interview, and I'm really, really looking forward to hearing more from you and from reading your blog as well, because I usually check out your blog as I find a lot of interesting content on North Korea. And I would like to recommend to all my readers and to our audience today your amazing book. So for the finishing of this interview, please tell the audience why it's worth reading your book and why it's worth learning about North Korea.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, and
my pleasure.
For your kind words. Why you should read my book? Well, if you want to know the perspective of a businessman who lived there for 7 years, who interacted with plenty of people, tried a lot of things, witnessed plenty of changes, and also was part of some of these changes. And if you're interested in not only North Korea of the past, but a North Korea that is emerging from a more darker past, from a more painful past, towards hopefully a more so-called normal country, then you should read my book to get a different perspective from what you have heard so far. And North Korea is a fascinating country for a variety of reasons, sometimes also for the wrong reasons. But I believe that North Korea is going to change even more, and I believe for the better, and that we should help North Korea change and become a so-called normal country by engaging, by what you're doing. You're blogging about it. You're interested in tourism, bringing people there. I help people. I advise people who want to set up businesses in North Korea because I have enough experience with that. So yeah, let's stay tuned. Oh.
Definitely, everyone, please check out Felix's book. You can find the link to Amazon in the description of this Google Plus Hangout. You can also find the link to Felix's website, where you can find all the information about his book and his experience in North Korea. Let me ask you only, do you plan to translate this book to other languages? How about the Polish version, maybe?
Well, that does not so much depend on myself. To be honest, my book is not, since it's not since it's not a horror story, it doesn't sell so well. It's a more normal book, which is not that spectacular. So it doesn't sell so well. It's not a bestseller. So I don't think it will be translated anytime soon.
Well, that's too bad, because actually there's quite a lot of people who are very interested in your book in Poland as well. There's a lot of books about North Korea in Poland, and I would be really happy to see on the bookshelf your book as well in Polish one day. So hopefully, maybe
Well,
one
let's
day.
hope that it happens.
Yeah. So thank you very much for joining me today. My guest was Felix Abt, the capitalist from North Korea. Please sign up for my YouTube channel. I post a lot of movies and videos on North Korea in Polish, Japanese, and English as well. And please check out my blog as well, or Twitter. And this was my first Google Hangout with an expert on North Korea. But I would like, and I hope, that I will find more guests to join me on the show. And maybe, this is quite a little spoiler, I hope the guys from Young Pioneer Tours are watching this, as maybe they will be my next guest. So stay tuned and check out my blog for more information about upcoming Hangouts. And thank you very much for today, and good night.
Thank you, Emil, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Felix. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye. See you, everybody.
Bye-bye.